everyone, and welcome to another bonus episode of the Energy Talk podcast. My name is Olubumi Olajide, and I am your host. Thank you so much for being with me again this week. I do have some explaining to do. It's been about a month now since my last episode on the podcast, and I take full responsibility for that. But I also feel like I need to do a bit of explaining. So I am the host, producer, editor, and all-around general errand boy of the podcast, and unfortunately, my laptop decided to misbehave, and that has been the general reason why I have not been able to upload episodes throughout this period. But I have been hard at work, and I have recorded a bunch of very, very interesting episodes. And for the next 8 weeks, it's going to be back-to-back episodes of very high-quality conversations with individuals all over the energy industry. I'm very excited for what the next 2 months have to offer, and I'm sure that you would love the conversations I recorded as well. So today we're going to do a bit of recap on the podcast so far. And one of the things is addressing one of the most basic things that we need to address, and that's the fact that I cannot run everything by myself anymore. So today I'll be introducing a new member of the Energy Talk team, and her name is Jennifer Anya. She is Nigerian and is currently pursuing a master's in economics, energy economics, and finance. And as for our motivations of wanting to be here, I think I'll just let her say it for herself.
I always say that I belong to the minority of those that never really knew what they wanted to do from the very beginning, and until when I was, say, in my third level in uni. And then there's this part where if I have issues, I try as much as possible to find a way to fix them, even if I don't have concrete reasons or concrete ways to sort it out, but I definitely would always know there's a way out of something. So I had this computer that would go when the power goes off in school. So when the power went out, laptop went out, and my work went out also, I didn't save, unfortunately for me. And then I started searching out with, because I felt it was an issue really, because I mean, there's a problem here. How do we fix that? Then I started researching, and this was 2014, 2015, when renewables were still pretty much fresh in Nigeria. Nobody really knew what it was. Even if there were, all the first work done would never last, say, 2 years, because of the fact that there was always like an underlying reason why it wasn't going properly well. So it wasn't so much into the world as it is right now. Lucky for me, I took a couple of classes in the physics and solar department of my university there. So literally, I was juggling between economics and physics and solar. So I round up with my department and go over to there and sit and learn and see how it was. And to me, it was magic, really, because I mean, just mix a couple of wires together, and the next thing you see, boom, there's light. I'm like, wow, interesting. And yeah, really. I mean, for somebody that could not have her laptop work in the middle of the night, and I'm seeing somebody mix wires together, and then the next thing there's light. I mean, red and black, which is like the basics everybody knows. Negative is black, positive is red. Put it together, then you have light. I'm like, this is actually magic. So lucky for me, I started taking lessons also from there. That's where my foundation started really, and from there changed the whole course of my entire study. Then I started figuring out what I could really, really do in that particular sense, knowing I was an economics major. And for me, I've always had a niche for I've always wanted people to be really happy, which is why I think the economic side of it really, really suits the whole thing, because I mean it's like, how do I make clients happy, knowing that I'm providing them what they want? And how do I make my company happy also? So it's basically having to find that balance. So out of university, we had this. So there's this thing where you serve your country for a year. I think in other countries, you either join the army or do something, but for us, you basically have to work in a government parastatal, usually mostly teaching, right, or working in any of those offices. So for me, I was supposed to be posted, but before then, prior to then, I started stalking people that I knew on Twitter that was in the energy field. Shout out to T and Ogoro here. I really owe that. I really, really owe him, because he gave me the push and everything that I needed from the very beginning. So I started stalking people that I really knew. I'm so serious to say that I actually stalk them a lot, because I do. I mean, that's how I get what I really want. Really, I think so. I just searched up like putting energy on Twitter, and it just put out a chunk load of people that I really did not know who they were, and they say something, I like their post, they comment something, I retweet. Like I just wanted to make sure, please just know who I am, notice or say something about me or something like that. And I went into the DMs, like he goes down in the DMs and stuff like that. And then yeah, and then I sent a message saying, okay, what exactly I was, who I was, and what I wanted, and all that. Even gave him my thesis topic, which was even in line with energy. And he's like, wow, interesting, good. And before then, let me also say something that most times you never really know that people can actually help, or we never really ask questions because I find it hard really with my thesis because I did my thesis in energy related topic, and I didn't have anything to work with, seeing that energy was still renewable energy was really new in Nigeria. So there was nothing I could use as a foundation basis or like a sample for my thesis was going to be. So I literally sent cold emails really to people that I knew. There was a particular night I woke up and then I wrote down all the names of the renewable energy enthusiasts I knew that existed in Nigeria at that time. I think that was in 2014 or 2015 thereabout. And I wrote down all the names of people that I knew, even the DGN, the Director General, Director General at that time, I think his name was Sunny something something. I think in that I can't remember for sure. First, he was acting then. Sent emails and they all replied, which was really really surprising because I wasn't expecting them to do so in their very busy schedule, and I got what I wanted. So
So something interesting that you mentioned was you just going around Twitter and just finding people in the renewable energy sector that you could just reach out to. I had a very similar experience when I started the podcast. I kind of reached out to a bunch of people, like really hopeful emails and hopeful DMs on LinkedIn, and I never expected them to reply. But to my surprise, it's amazing what you can get if you're willing to ask for it persistently and just pop off on their comments and like everything they post, and eventually they know your name and your name pops up in their inbox, and people are surprisingly willing to help if you're just bold enough to ask for help. Sometimes that's something that really struck me as amazing when I started this podcast. Okay, so it's no surprise that I am my background is in oil and gas, and I don't try to hide it because that's pretty much my introduction into the energy industry. So I'm glad that you are bringing in some experience with the renewables front. So the next question, that the audience will be wondering, and I something I wonder about myself: how did you find the podcast initially?
how did I find the podcast? That's a very good question. Um, to be honest, I really cannot remember, but I think it was on LinkedIn. I really cannot remember how I did, but I because I know you, the podcast really has no active social media handles aside from LinkedIn, really. So it's definitely it's definitely on LinkedIn. That's why I definitely found you. I can't remember what I must have searched for, and I found the podcast, but I really can't remember. But definitely, it's on LinkedIn.
Okay, so thank you for calling me out on that. So the social media front is something that's not really been my strong suit, and that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, I need to call you out.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's one of the reasons why Jennifer is here. So, Jennifer, can you just tell a little bit about what you're hoping to do with the podcast going forward, and what you hope to accomplish while you are with the Energy Talk?
You just put me
Yes,
on
yes, I did
blast.
actually. Yeah.
Just-
I, I mean, you called me out for a social media thing, so this is basically my getting back at you.
okay, let's do something with that. All right. I'm not into the social media thing myself. I mean, my Instagram is off, my Snapchat is off. I literally just have Twitter right now on my phone, which pretty much is what I have, is what I use. So literally, so the reason why I reached out to you was I saw, okay, fine, you are Nigerian. That was literally the first thing that drew my attention. And it was pretty much what I wanted to do for a bit now, but not essentially the exact same thing. But you had already started something that I would love to do. And I was like, okay, fine. I think this guy has something good. But I ran through a couple of releases that had been done, and I saw there was nothing on the energy front in terms of renewables and this part of the world on there. That's the Nigerian front. And I was like, okay, fine. We have people that are doing good stuff, amazing stuff for that matter. My boss is one of them. Shout out to Mr. Mustafa. There are lots of them on Twitter that I can, if I start mentioning right now, like I can definitely not even exhaust this. Like there are lots of, and I mean, why do you have this when we cannot reach out to them? And as why can't I serve as the middleman between the podcast and these guys? I mean, I know these guys. I can come from this angle and from that angle, and it's also a way to show that we ourselves as Nigerians, even in the African community, we are doing our own bit to make sure that things are going the right way, and we are trying to make sure that in general climate change is not just happening in only the developed countries, also the developing, because we know that it's just the developed countries that signed the agreement. Developing countries also should also do their own bit to make sure that things are done properly. And I felt that the podcast can show that if we have people come on and talk about their own views. I mean, we have wonderful people. We have Chima Obi doing stuff on energy efficiency. We have wonderful women doing their own stuff in the energy front in Nigeria. We have the men that are also, I mean, heading up solar companies and making sure that both investors, both the government, and both the clients are really, really well to do. So I mean, that was the reason why I actually reached out to you, and I feel that there's definitely going to be something positive that's going to come out of this. So
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the primary motivations that I had when I was in this podcast, I was thinking of the name when I was trying to name it. Because of my background, I thought that I would just stick with what I was good at and just talk about just the oil and gas industry. But then I realized that that would be unfair to talk about just one sector when there's so many more interesting things. And now there's more of a social necessity for us to explore things outside of fossil fuels and carbon-based fuel sources. So I am glad that you're calling me out on my unconscious bias on that front. So thank you very much. So for the future of the podcast, I'm genuinely excited that I would get to talk with people and go out of my comfort zone in terms of renewables, especially in developing countries and in Africa. I think I've had two guests so far. One is unpublished, talking about renewables in South America, and the way they talk about those kind of developments, it really strikes a difference. Like if you talk about it in terms of countries like the USA or countries in Europe or okay, maybe China as well. There's a different kind of reception to it because they have probably the infrastructures ready in place and they have the citizens who are ready in support of those kind of technologies. But in countries like African countries, specifically Nigeria and some places in South America, it's much more difficult, and it's like educating the public first and then really appreciating the work that small individuals with really, really passionate organizations behind them, and they're doing really amazing work. Jennifer has opened my eyes to a few of those people. So for the future of the podcast, I'm excited to be able to have those kind of conversations and have the podcast really represent its name as the Energy Talk and really have everybody's voices represented. So one more thing that I want to bring up, as far as the marketing of the podcast, I would admit I've not been doing the best job with marketing. I'll be honest; it's only mainly focused on LinkedIn because that has the best conversion rate. In my defense, LinkedIn has the best conversion rates of reaching out to guests and reaching the audience. So that's why I chose that as a point of focus. But going forward, I do hope that we can reach more social media platforms, specifically Instagram and Twitter, and really get to people and bring them into the show and reach out to different kind of guests that I don't have access to already. So Jennifer, do you have anything to say about that?
well, I feel that Twitter is pretty much going to be like first landing for you, if I'm to say that without a doubt, because of how the app is structured. It's going to be really, really conversational in the sense that there you can literally ask questions in terms of, okay, what do you feel? You can feel their pulses from how to respond to certain things that you put out. And you can also ask questions regardless of whatever it is. And there's a way to also get your audience, because that is where you're getting first responses in terms of whatever you put. So starting off with Twitter, I think, is one of them. We know that Instagram is already pretty much related to pictures and all that. So that I'm not quite sure how that would come in handy, but definitely it's worth a try.
We have a very cute logo. What do you mean? Like that alone should get us some hits on Twitter, don't you think? On Instagram, I mean.
I hope so. The cute logo indeed. Yeah, the cute logo indeed. But it all depends, right? Because if it's educational, definitely yes. In terms of, okay, if for example you can utilize the live feature on Instagram, for example, say, okay, off the top of my head, what I'm thinking of right now is, for example, people don't know what energy efficiency is. So you can literally have a talk on energy efficiency and make it live on Instagram, for example. You as the host and have a guest come on and talk about energy efficiency. Then off the live chat, you can now have audience come in and ask their questions, because really not everybody knows what energy efficiency is. They don't know what is compatible to their household. You know that, oh, buying an AC, you need to like look at the wattage, how compatible is it to my electric billing. If I'm buying a refrigerator, what particular type should I buy and all that. So these things are pretty intricate. You might want to overlook them, but they go a long way in having to tell how much you pay at the end of the month for what your utilities are. So having someone come on there to educate someone using Instagram as the front, that's a way to actually utilize the app. So we can have Instagram for that specific purpose, and a lot more. Then you can have Twitter for the conversational aspect of it. So it all depends on how you get to tailor what you're putting out and what particular platform suits it. I think they are both useful. It just depends on how you want to put the content out, what particular content you're putting on there.
Okay, you guys are getting a first-hand view of our marketing strategy going forward. So there's one more thing I wanted to address while we're here. When I started the podcast,
Hold on.
I was what?
Why do I feel like you're already giving me an assignment to do, Olu?
No, it's fine. We can talk about it after the recording. Anyway, so when I started the podcast, I wasn't expecting quite a number of people to tune in and listen to the conversation I was having. I was hoping when I started that at least two people would listen to the podcast, and then I realized how much work it was running the podcast and reaching out to guests, and I was like, okay, it's not worth it unless I get about 10 people per episode. So that was my target, 10 people per episode. I'm very happy to announce that it's we have way more than 10 people listening every week, so thank you guys. And there are people who come back every week and listen, but the problem is, since it's a podcast and it's not like a YouTube channel people can like and leave comments directly, I have almost no idea who's listening to the podcast. And that's a big problem, because if I don't know who's listening, then I don't know what you would want or what exactly you like or don't like about the podcast. So there's this feedback loop that's a bit broken right now. So me and Jennifer are trying to find a way to fix this, and that's why I talk so much about social media, because we want a very easy, rough way you can listen to the podcast and immediately get into contact with us and talk to us about what the last guest said, which you disagree with what they said, or you agree, or you feel we should have more of that or less of this. So we're going to be taking more efforts into making communication much easier between us and you. So I don't know if you guys know, but I it depends on the platform you're listening. But there is a link in every episode where you can send in voice messages. I know not many people will be comfortable with that. Not everyone has the voice of angels like me and Jennifer to be on this podcast. But if if that's something you're worried about, you could always reach out to us via email. And once we have the social media pages set up properly, then that would be a possible outcome as well. So, Jennifer, when people reach out to us, what would you like to know about them, and what would you like them to point out as they communicate with us throughout the coming weeks?
First of all, honestly, when you showed me the feedback in terms of what we were getting, in mind I was like, wow, we're actually touching continents, because it's like we have Africa here, we have North America, there we have. So it's like I'm really grateful that, okay, fine, we actually have this audience and we know that they're actually dispersed. It's not just concentrated to just one particular area. We have the Philippines, we have Cyprus, we have Turkey, we have Nigeria, we have USA. So it's like, yes, we are doing something. So first of all, thank you for listening. And on the second hand, it's like, okay, fine, now we need to fill your pause. Are we on the right track? If we are, like, give us a thumbs up, say something, even if it's on IG or Twitter. Olu literally doesn't have anything. I'm going to pull him on blast again right now. He doesn't even have anything on Twitter, not even a hi. There's nothing. There is nothing on the Twitter page. So he's going to work on that before the end of this week. Really, it's Saturday already. Like before the week runs
Yes,
out, that's midnight actually. Let me say Sunday. Let's be very fair. So, I mean, communicate with us what you would like to hear. Like, and what is the current energy situation in your country? If you are you for renewables or pro renewables? Some people are obviously against renewables in the sense that people say it's a lot more expensive, even those that live in more developed areas. This is a lot more expensive, even those that even knowing that they even push back to the grid, they say it's still expensive for them because at the end of the day, I mean, it's just the deductions it comes into because when you push back to the grid, it takes some units off your bill or whatever it is. So it's are you for renewables or are you pro or rather are you against renewables? And I mean, what is the current energy trend in your country? Are you guys like if it is? I'm really not quite sure exactly how what I'm saying is. But I know for sure in Nigeria we have the problem of not constant power. Like power is just not constant. There is a deficit in that area. So if it is like, how would you want it to get better? If you use renewables, are there things you would like to know? If there are, please you leave your questions on. I'll leave that part to Olu to say what the social media handles are for Instagram and for Twitter and for LinkedIn also. I mean, leave your social media. So always going to leave the social media handles, and you can ask us the questions you would like to know. For example, energy efficiency. What would you like to know more about that? Also, energy audits also is something I should also take into consideration. I'm saying this right now. I'm from my experience back in Nigeria. I don't know about more developed areas or where for or rather our audience in the US or Turkey or wherever you might be listening to us from. But for Nigeria, I know for sure ours is energy efficiency, energy audits, and if you have a system, major faults that you get to have and all that. And if you are listening to us from the US, I'm not quite sure what problems you have, but I mean, just a simple hi or a thumbs up, or what you would like to know, or what you'd like to hear better, or if there's something you want us to touch on, please share with us, definitely.
and to my oil and gas bros, trust me, we're not leaving you guys behind, even though Jennifer might not like that. But I would like to hear from you guys too. Even though oil and gas doesn't really have the best reputation, I still get excited to talk about it because it's one of the most complex and interesting topics with geopolitics and the prices of oil and international trade relations and policies.
Wait,
So these might be bad for people in the long run, but they make excellent conversational topics. So if you're in that industry as well, the oil and gas industry, I would also love to engage you in conversation. And yeah, so we're really trying to find a balance with this to talk about every energy source, and who knows, in the future we might reach out and branch out into nuclear and hydroelectricity and really get creative and talk about electric vehicles and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for how we grow. I'm really excited that we have people listening from all over the world, and I am very eager to hear from you. So first steps, I'm going to update in the description of the show to put in the social media handles. So it's at the Energy Talk everywhere: LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Although there's nothing on Twitter right now, we'll be working on that. And for the email, I will be putting the email in the description so everybody can see it. And thank you for everyone who has already reached out to me because just yesterday, Isaac did. So, Isaac, if you're listening, thank you so much for reaching out to me. And I really want to hear from more of you: why you listen, what part of the energy industry you're from, oil and gas, renewables, nuclear, even if you're dealing with coal. You're more than welcome to get in touch, and I will be genuinely excited to hear from all of you. So, Jennifer, is there anything else you would like to say?
Yes, like we're not leaving oil and gas out. I mean, I am studying energy economics. I'm not studying renewable energy economics. I don't know if you I mean, I'm just talking based off of what I know, what my foundation is, which is renewables. I mean, I took a course right now in oil and gas. So I know a bit of the geopolitics, the Turkey, the Yemen, the Azerbaijan, and the rest of them. Good. But the question I always ask is, and I always ask this question everywhere I go, people know me for this question really is, what is the trade off between renewables and oil and gas? Yeah. How do you optimize your systems to be very efficient utilizing these two things without any of them clashing and without one rubbing off or making the environment look really, really bad? Like, how do you utilize these two things together? Like, I still know professors that say renewables don't do anything because at the end of the day, it's very expensive and it's not sustainable. That is what this particular person that I know would say. Like, I literally got into an argument with my professor on this, and he was telling me, with all due respect, exactly what he said. Renewables is just shit. Like, the World Bank costs money, and then they don't know what they're doing, and then they don't know what they're doing, and at the end of the day, in 2 years, 3 years, it's all down the drain. And I didn't know what to say because honestly, I mean, except to get to that point where storage doesn't it's not a problem anymore. We're still going to keep talking about this because I mean you always need to always check on your batteries in 2 years to know if they're still functioning properly. I know there are a lot more technology put into getting efficient batteries right now, but the thing is there's this conversation that they say renewable is just what it is, oil and gas is. I'm like, okay, fine. How do we make this efficient? Where do these guys come and marry themselves together and say we're working as one big family?
Hmm.
But it's still energy. That is where they are. Like it's still in the same body as energy input. I mean, forget the fact that we have biomass there, but the two major guys ruling the front right now are renewables and oil and gas. But when we talk about renewables, we're looking at solar specifically and wind. Those are the two championing the particular word we call renewables, of which oil and gas is just there telling you, I'm still here, hello, I've always had your back. So like I'm not disregarding, but I would love to ensure okay, let's make this a question. What do you think is the trade-off between the both of them? Can they marry themselves together? Can they be together and work efficiently and really, really and then for system optimization for whatever it is you're doing? Take for example, there's supposed to be like a remote village and the appraiser comes back to say that both renewables and
Hmm.
non-renewables will be efficient for this particular area. What would you do? Would you disregard one and do the other, or would you do both of them to stay together and all that? So it all depends on what suits what and who is ready for what. So I'm not saying oil and gas is no. I'm just saying how can these guys work together for the good of Earth as a whole. Let's hear your questions. Let's hear your answers. If you think they can stay together, if you think they can't, if you think one has the upper hand than the other, and if you do, how do you think this can actually move forward and work together? Because I am actually eager to hear what you guys have to say because this will go a long way, really, in my thesis kind of because um, because I mean I'm writing something on the optimization of both sides for the MENA region. I mean, you know, the MENA is like 98% oil and gas. We have Saudi Arabia, we have Iran, and the rest of them. And now we also have the fact that they say they also have enough solar to power the whole of their region for a long while. So, how do this come into play? How do they mix renewables and oil and gas together for the development of their economy? On this note, I hands off.
Okay, so I actually think that's a very good place to start with getting feedback from you guys. So, what do you think the trade-off is between oil and gas renewables? Do you see them as competitors, or do you see that for a sustainable future they need to work together? I would really love to hear your answers. So, I'm going to give you two options to send in your answers to this question, and the answers that we receive when we do the next bonus episodes. The bonus episodes usually come at the end, the every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks, depending on how the week goes. But there'll be one every month. That's a promise. There'll be one bonus episode every month. So what do you think about this question? You can reach out to us either through email. The email will be put in the description, so you can send an email. energytalkpodcast@gmail.com, or you could send a voice note with the link in the description. Just go there, you'll find it. It's pretty. It's at the bottom, so you have to scroll all the way down. I'm pretty sure the link works. I've tried it out on a few different platforms, and I think it should be okay. So email or an audio message. Send us both. Send us replies. We would love to hear from you. Please include your names as well and where you're from, so we can get some perspective and form a good geological or geographical idea of what we are talking about and how the conversation goes. So, thank you, Jennifer, for introducing yourself to the audience. It's been great having this conversation.
Thank you too for having me. And thank you to the audience for following us back on our social media handles too.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you in advance. So we will see you guys. The next round of conversations we have are going to be one of the more interesting we've had so far. So I look forward to that, and I look forward to sharing that with you. So I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jennifer as she introduced herself. She's going to be really involved with the podcast going forward. She's definitely going to be joining me on all the future bonus episodes going forward. And just to give you guys an idea of what the format of the podcast would look like, the bonus episodes, if you've been paying attention, some of you may be new, but the bonus episodes are going to be once a month, or they're supposed to be once a month if I didn't have my long break. So besides that, the bonus episodes are once a month, and we're going to have 3 interviews with 3 different people in the energy sector, different parts of the energy sector. We'll be talking to them, and then we're going to be having a recap of what we talk about during these bonus episodes, and we're going to be reading your reactions when you get back to us, and we really, really want to hear from you. I think the only thing that's going to keep us really motivated and to keep us connected and accountable in what we put out is if we're hearing feedback from the people who are listening. So get in touch with us. We have our email, we have the link in the description to send in audio messages, and whatever way you're comfortable, stalk us on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can find us anywhere. We're more than happy to hear from you going forward, and I'm really excited for what the podcast has to offer in the future. The next few episodes, I won't give too much away, but just as an apology for me being away for too long, we're going to be having 2 episodes next week. One about the oil and gas industry, and one about the energy industry in Africa, mainly about Uganda. So it's going to be a very interesting week next week. It's going to be 2 individuals that I have lots of respect for, Jake and Dr. Victoria, and we're going to be enjoying what they have to say and what they bring to this energy conversation. So yeah, that would be a good place to start for the next week. So 2 episodes next week to make up for my long leave of absence, and I'm really excited for the next future episodes. So thank you guys so much. This podcast has been a real joy to work on, and I'm really excited the people I've met, and to do this, it's really made me a whole lot happier. Thank you so much. I hope you continue to learn with me, and this is Olubunmi Olajide signing off. All my best and with energy. Take care, and see you on the next episode.